Hey, this is Dave with OC Astronomy. I'm on quarantine lockdown here, so I thought I'd do a fun little project and build a little Dobsonian telescope. Um, the telescope tube is just a homemade telescope, but the optics are from a dynoscope from the 1950s. And something kind of funny happened. One of our other physics teachers was teaching a bunch of kids and had the scope out, the old scope out many years ago, and it got tipped over. And whenever the dynoscope fell over, it had a Bakelite tube, and it landed on the focuser, and it smashed the tube, and so it kind of destroyed the telescope. But the it was in the storeroom for a long time, and I finally just got it out and decided, hey, I'm on quarantine, I may as well fix it into something better. So the optics were actually okay. The spider with the secondary mirror and the other mirror were in pretty good shape. It just didn't have a tube anymore. So I got this tube from the hardware store, and it just happened to fit the optics really well. And just it's a 6-inch mirror, and the mirror cell at the bottom of it fit pretty well. And so then I decided to give it a halfway decent mounting. So I wanted to show you some of the things about the mounting that are kind of fun, and even some of the mistakes I made, and then just kind of give you a quick look at this telescope, and maybe if you're planning to do it yourself, you can learn from my mistakes or learn what I did right. All right, so let's turn it around and have a look at it. All right, so first off, I need to mow my yard, but it's been raining, so you'll have to forgive me for the long grass in the background. But the telescope, what I did was I got a event horizon focuser, because every good telescope needs a good focuser, and it's got the little motorized option. Have it velcroed down here, and then the finder I got from Jim at Scope Stuff, and it's a good little reflex finder with the instead of a red dot, it has red circles on it, which makes it easier to center the star in the center of the circle that would normally be covered up by the red dot. So these are neat little, they're like mini Telrads, but they're made out of plastic, so they're lightweight. Then the inside of the tube I painted black, put the secondary on there, and it works pretty well. Got this little cover also from Jim at Scope Stuff. The tube itself is just a construction tube for like that one for putting posts in the ground, and I just painted the outside white. The bearings, I got these plumbing attachments. They're just drain covers for I don't know what that is, 3 or 4 inch pipe, and it turns out to be handy because you can center the screws. You can put one in for the center and one to kind of lock the things. It turned out to be handy because it turns out putting those in the exact right place to get the two sides mirror opposite is actually a little bit of a trick. And I was off on the first one, so I should be in the center hole, but instead I had to go with the next hole up from here, and then I put the second one in there to stop it from rotating. Those sit on little felt pads, and the spring tension is kind of not necessary, but it's also there just to kind of hold everything together, so that it's all nice and stable. One of the hard parts about these kind of telescopes is getting the balance right, because if you put a small eyepiece or a big eyepiece, it has different weight, and so when you go to balance it, it can be a little tricky. But one thing I did was I found out I just put a bag on the end of there and use my accessory bag to kind of balance it, and it works pretty well. Right now it's a little bit heavy because I have some binoculars in there, but I do that, then I can just balance it, and it works all right. And I just have a book in there, so you don't need a fancy system with weights and everything. I just put a binocular bag with some books in it, and it balances really well. So I had to put those binoculars in there to counterbalance a really heavy eyepiece I was trying out. On the sides, I got these little black handles from Amazon, and I made this box really nice and tight so that it would fit with just the ears of these these drain plugs, I wanted those to sit real nice on the edge. So I made everything kind of tight tolerance. And what happened was, then I went and put the mirror cell in, and I screwed these screws in and found out that the screw sticking out was actually hitting here, and it wouldn't let it range through the motion. And so I had to go in with a chisel and go where the screws had marked the inside. I just kind of used those marks that it made and chiseled out a little channel. So now the screw goes in that little channel, and it'll go all the way down. I kind of actually like it because it keeps the telescope from popping out too easy when I'm moving it around, because these channels kind of lock the bottom into place. It's kind of handy. So the mistake I made was making the box a little bit too tight, but it actually wound up working for the best, because now I have those little channels in there, and you never will learn to innovate if you don't make mistakes. Let me flip it up on the table here and let you see what I use for the bottom bearing. So for the bottom, I just use furniture sliders in here, and they have little Teflon pads on them. So I use the little furniture slider on this laminate. And there's actually a specific type of laminate. Probably those of you that do a lot of DIY stuff that build these will know. There's one called like Black Star or Black something laminate, and it's just tile. What do you call it? Laminate tile. And but they use it because it has it's not a completely smooth surface. It's a little tiny bit it has some texture to it, I guess you'd call it, but it's slippery. It's very, very slippery on the pads, and so it actually gives it the right kind of feel on the Teflon pads. It gives it the right kind of feel and the right kind of resistance to moving. And I just went and asked for some samples and got like 4 or 5 samples of it, and then just glued it on here and made the joint as good as I could to use as a bottom surface. I thought Dobson would be proud of using construction materials to build one. And then for the feet, I used some hockey pucks. They're nice. Hockey pucks are just hard rubber, and they make for nice little feet. They're pretty well indestructible. And then just use this screw to hold it in place. It doesn't provide any, it doesn't really tension it. The weight and gravity provides the tension. So that's what I use for my bearings, and it's actually really smooth and it works really well. The only really hard part of doing these kinds of telescopes is figuring out the math for the focuser tube, and you have to get the distance right from the back surface of the primary mirror out the focus tube. You have to get the distance right so that eyepieces and cameras, if you're going to use a camera, will come to focus at the right point. In my case, I have a little extension tube because that way you can have eyepieces here and focus. If you take out the extension tube, you could pop in a camera if you wanted to use a camera. So anyway, there's some kind of features and some fun of doing it yourself when you're locked down in quarantine. Maybe this will inspire you to go out and build one yourself and show me a better job. I chipped this a little bit here, but it doesn't matter because the bearings run in a circle here and they don't catch on that, so I just left it. A little bit of imperfection never hurt anybody, said the astronomer never. All right, well, this is Dave, and I hope that you enjoyed my home build telescope, and I'm sure I did many things wrong, so show me how to do it right. Talk to you later.